What's up, folks? It's Two Bricks, and I am here in my little loft shooting area. My main Lego room is out there, and I'm in here today because the Venator just simply doesn't fit on the table that I've been working on anymore. So for those of you who are new, welcome. And if you don't know what this is, I am building a 10-foot long Venator class Star Destroyer to go with the rest of my micro scale fleet here and be in scale with all of those models. So now you're all caught up. This is the progress so far. We have a completed frame that is the entire 10-foot length. So you can see that down there, it terminates right down at the end there. And that's going to be where the big fin is. And then there's these 4 massive engines on either side, here and here. And then in here will be where all the superstructure gets built up and the bridges sit on top of that. So this is where I'm at today, and I literally had to relocate it in here in order to put it all together and shoot it. So the Venator comes apart right down the middle here into 2 separate halves. Currently it is attached, and I've just been working on it in here because it's just easier to be able to, when I'm constructing the frame like this, to be able to work on the whole thing, all at once. And this is where I'm at. So I'm super excited to share with you guys all of the progress today. Lots of progress has been made. You can see here I'm starting to flesh out the back hangar bay. So where I left off last update, there was no back section at all. Also, all of this is new. And then figuring out the dimensions for how this is all going to be. I've kind of had some thoughts about that. So really excited to share all of that with you guys in this update. And then, yeah, you can see here I've begun the process of skinning it in earnest. So there's a lot to discuss with that as well. I've figured out a lot of techniques that I like to achieve the look that I want to get for my Venator, to get that iconic Star Wars like ship skin kind of feeling to it, that armor feeling that you get when you look at a Star Destroyer that feels so realistic and so proper. So really excited about all of that. And again, just being able to put this here next to the rest of the fleet feels great. I actually was sort of dubious when I built the Aqua-Tense cruiser here. I saw this in the Clone Wars show, and it was, running around doing crazy stuff next to the Venators. And I couldn't believe, when I built this, I couldn't believe that these were so tiny in comparison to a Venator. But now, seeing them side by side, I'm like, oh yeah, the Aqua-Tense is a little baby. And the Venator is a big chunky boy. So super duper cool to be able to make those direct size comparisons as well. So, but yeah, there you go. So let's dive into the update today. I have a lot to show you, particularly around this side. So I'm going to be actually breaking this back in half, relocating it over to my tables where there's better light and I can get down and get better angles and show you guys. But for the start of the video here, I just wanted to put it all together and let you have a look-see. So yeah, let's see what I've been working on. Just a quick interjection from editing me really quick. I just want to say that I actually got some requests from folks to make instructions for these cannons, of which I'm going to be reproducing this design 7 times in order to have the full set of 8 for my ship. So I've gone ahead and made instructions for those. Those are just free. You can check them out on my Rubricable page. And if you want to support the project in any additional way, you can check out some of the other mocks that I have on that I have for sale over there. I think I've got some pretty cool ones. So yeah, you can definitely give that a browse if you are interested in helping me to pay for this crazy Venator project. So thank you very much. And the other thing that I do is take some feedback requests to get some time-lapse footage. It's really, really hard to do because I'm constantly moving the thing around, constantly working on different sections of it. So it's kind of hard to set up a stable time-lapse, but I did get a little bit of footage of me building the whole plate here. So I'll try to do more, and I think we'll probably have an easier time doing it in future as I work on smaller, discrete sections of the build. So there you go. All right, so other than, of course, creating a whole new section of the Venator, I have mostly worked on the details going all the way down this side. I've added in the little cutout area, as you can see there, which of course corresponds to the little cutout area of the armor plating. And I've pretty much built this entire thing. I had this much of it last time, and I have dramatically extended it back. And the other thing that I've kind of been working on is figuring out, now that I know the final kind of width of the back part with the the big hangar bay with the cutout right here, now I can start to slowly taper that back to meet up with the front here, and also kind of figure out where this line of the armor plating is going to meet and how I'm going to be doing these hangar bays and stuff that run down here. So a lot of that stuff is in progress right now. So I've ordered a lot of parts, you can see here, to experiment with different ways of showing these little individual fighter hangar bay type situations. And then of course the other thing that I'm gonna have to figure out is how I'm going to represent the doors and have them be opening, because the doors go from about here to about here. The entire length pretty much of this wedge has to be a single door, and I have to figure out how to hinge it from the front and then also have it swing from the back, so it creates a sort of triangular opening down the middle here. It's a little unclear in various different references how much the front section of the doors open, if at all. I think they may just open just enough to accommodate the fact that the doors are separating right down the middle, so the two corners of the doors here will want to hit each other unless the doors can slightly spread apart in order to avoid that. So I think I'm just, there's a lot to figure out right in here. Fortunately, the doors on the Venator are raised up higher than the hull plating, so I have a little bit of room in here to play with, and I'm going to be kind of figuring out what I can install right here as far as something to hook the doors into. And I will not be representing the Clone Wars version of this ship. I'm going for the Episode 3 version, so my doors will be flat. The Clone Wars one kind of angles up and meets in the middle, sort of continuing the shape of this, but in the official Revenge of the Sith version, the doors are nice and flat. So that's going to make things potentially slightly easier, because I don't have to worry about things angling down and away. The doors will literally just be flat, and they'll just scissor open from side to side there. So I don't know, that's going to be interesting. But let me take a look down here at the details and show you what I've been working on down here. So a lot of this is familiar from last week. I have added in some additional details. So for example, we have a couple more cannons, some additional details and things that have been moved around, some things that have been replaced. And then of course I've continued this down. And here we have two fan suggestions for Greeblies that I wanted to include, and that is one, the representation of the Universal Greebly, which is something that has a long history in ILM. It's a specific part from a specific model kit that was used over and over and over and over again, and it's this little round thing with a single thingy off to the side and then 4 dots, 2 of which have holes in them off to the sides. And so I wanted to, of course, pay homage to that in this build. And then the other one, of course, here is the mini kit build. I've recolored mine in gray so that it is less obvious, but there it is unmistakably a mini kit integrated into the build. So thank you to the fans who suggested that. I really, really appreciated it. And then here we have the cutout with the main big beefy boy cannon, which I really enjoy. And then for this one, I was gonna have windows in the cannon itself, just like I have down at the front here for these smaller turrets, but I decided instead to place, it's more accurate to the source material, place a sort of a viewing platform up here where your gunner crew would be working, and then the gun here is sort of, automated doing its thing, or not, it's piloted from up here above the actual gun itself. And I'm really happy with the overall look of this thing. I think it looks very menacing and beefy. I like how I was able to place these pieces on their side. For some reason, it just looks more legit than when they're faced in the, regular studs up configuration. But I really like that. So continuing down, more and more detail, of course. And I'm using so many different varieties of pieces to just get interesting looks all down throughout here. And I'm trying to integrate a lot of the blue windows as well, because in the scenes in Revenge of the Sith where we can see the sides of the Venators up close, there are a lot of illuminated blue windows all down the sides of these decks, and I really want to capture that. And my goal is, when this is all done, to have wiring that comes through the hull of the ship, comes sort of over the edge at strategic points, and then starts to integrate down lights all throughout here to give those little spots of blue illumination. They may not necessarily correspond to the blue that's here now. They may just be their own kind of thing, where in the daylight conditions you can see the blue windows, but then in the nighttime conditions you can see the lights are just in their own spaces. It depends on how difficult I find it to integrate lights into the actual parts that I've called out here. Like, I don't know how I would get a light inside of here without drilling into parts and stuff, and I really don't want to do that. So yeah, we'll see how that goes, but that's the plan. So yeah, that's the main kind of detailed trench that goes all the way down here, and boy, was it a lot of work. It's, you know, it's easy to just slap pieces on, but to come up with a pattern that you like, that feels like it's got depth, so you can really feel like inside there's little stories that can unfold in each of these areas, you know, it's not easy. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with how this is going. I have a big old cannon here, which I think fits pretty well. It looks like some sort of big fuel cylinder or something. And yeah, I'm just super thrilled with how all this is looking so far. So there's that. And you may be wondering why I did the details on this side and then the plating on that side. The reason being is that I wanted this thing to not tip over. So by balancing out, you know, we just have a bare bones frame on here right now, and then there's some details up at the front that I started on last time. But by having the frame bare on this side with some hull plating and then the frame detailed on this side, it balances out and it doesn't tip over. The back section over here tips over very much because I was experimenting with this hangar bay back here, so it actually needs some additional support or it will fall over. But this is perfectly balanced, as all things should be. So one of the things I wanted to talk about is this detailed section of hull plating that I've started to work on right here. So one of the things that I wanted to try to do is experiment with different ways of representing detailing in the panels. So we have straight up just lines that are done with tiles, and then we're breaking up those middle sections with giving a little bit of extra texture with sections that have studs. And then we have smaller sections that have sticker details. So we have that one there, this one here. Those are really, really useful because they give just an extra pop of color that's a slight variation due to the fact that LEGO cannot match their stickers to their plastic color to save their life. It actually gives a really nice bit of variation to the texture. And then also I have this section right here, which is just brick built and is held in place here with these brackets along the side. So I can actually just pop this out fairly easily and show you. So yeah, it's just a construction, very, very simple like that. And then it has these panels on the end here that just hold it in place and hook it in there. And that's just, again, another way to create some, well, that's not gonna, it's just another way to create some variation through there. Just, you know, making things not feel repetitive, which is gonna be really important because there's so much gray surface on this whole model that the whole thing really needs to feel interesting to look at, despite the fact that it is not actually very interesting. I think I've actually put this on one stud down. There you go. So sorry about that. And then, yeah, so these sections right here are, I think I showed this in the last video, just held in place with a single jumper. And then there's just tiles underneath. And then there's a little lip that just meets up. So this goes one plate deeper on the edge here, and then that just meets up with the edge right here, so that we have that little bit of overhang that just fits very nicely. And then for this section, I've actually used some hinge plates. So there's a hinge plate under here to hold this section in place, right? And then that's giving it that extra little bit of interesting detail. And then we have the kind of window, or I'm not sure what this represents on the Venator, but it's very clear, like this black strip right here. And then the frame goes around it, and that is what goes over the cannon there. And then just continuing this little edge trim around. And I'm not too worried about keeping this edge trim exactly consistent throughout, because the shape of this doesn't really line up perfectly to any one Lego plate. So I'm actually shifting gears constantly between the 3 and the 4x wedge plates to subtly, slowly shift the angle in the direction that I need it to shift over time, but have it still feel very seamless. So yeah, at some points the trim will get thicker and thinner, but overall you'll just perceive you know, a single kind of unified shape at the end, I hope. And I think so far it's going pretty well. So yeah, and again, just continuing to mix in some little smaller areas of detail, and then these larger pieces, like for example these rail plates, and you know, things that
things that feel like they draw your eye to a certain area, and then your eye keeps roving, and kind of just keeping the whole thing interesting. Because when you watch Revenge of the Sith and they do the flyover of the Venator, you can really see there's a lot of interesting variation. Even though when you step back, you just look at you just see a big gray triangle. So that's that. I'm thinking for this whole top plate here that I'm probably going to make it as one that terminates over here, and then cut it right down the middle. Not literally, but have a stopping point. This feels like it's about right, where it can then attach like with maybe some Technic pins, right? The two pieces together, but you can remove this as two large pieces, because this is still, okay to hold. It's not the worst to pick up, but if it gets much bigger, it'll be pretty unwieldy. So that's what I'm thinking, so that I can then take these sections off and we can look at things like the hangar bay and things inside of here. But I'm not sure yet how much that's going to be a feature of this, like what exactly I'm going to have on the internals of this, besides having the hangar bay, which I know is going to be in there. But yeah, this is so far it's working out great, and the angles are matching up very nicely, with just the slightest amount of, like I said, just correction along the way in the way that the wedge plates are configured, and no problem so far. So I'm really, really happy about that. And I'm going to continue to experiment with different ways to represent texture, and contrasting the texture with the lack of, to create interesting little visual details all throughout this. So yeah, there you go.
So for anyone who's interested to know how I am planning this out, up here, because my computer that I have all the official plans and stuff is downstairs, it's literally just like this. I make a bunch of notes about the scale of things and on a piece of paper, and then I usually lose that piece of paper and have to go downstairs and check again. But that's how I'm kind of doing literally just all of this. So I've just put this reactor build that I'm going to be including into the interior here, just set it in place. It's actually probably should be a little bit more forward, but there you go. And I wanted to show you guys the back section and the front section connected together in this very precarious way, where it is hanging off the edge of my table and is only being held in place by that box of Technic bricks right there, and the bridge here, which is just pinching the back end and keeping it from falling down. So there you go. But I really wanted to show you guys the progress that I've started to make in fleshing out this section. So this obviously continues back. Oh, and there is actually a part that broke off during transport. Let me just put that back. There you go. So everything's nice and connected again now. So yeah, so this is the part where we start to go back and we widen out along the bottom as well too. And we get the side hanger. And I've just started to experiment with a look for the door here. And this is the reason why the back end of the ship won't balance on its own, because I have flooring in here and I have a lot more bricks fleshing this side out. And yeah, it's just starting to collapse under its own weight. I do think that this hanger is slightly too tall, but I really, really like the dimensions of it. It feels right to me. So I don't want to change it, but I may have to, because I'm pretty sure that the way that this hull plating aligns, this won't fit. And I think there's supposed to be a little bit more headroom on top as well. So, kind of framing like this around the door at the top. So we'll see how that works out. But for now, I've just started to just stick a few pieces in here that I'm interested in using. And I'm just literally just playing around with some plates to see what the dimensions feel like they're going to be. But really excited about this hangar bay and the potential ships that I can have coming in and out of here. So that's going to be a ton of fun. And then you can see here at the top, I'm just sort of awkwardly merging together the plates, the section here where they connect with just some wedge plates like that. And just trying to sort of make it line up, because the side of this hangar bay is actually angled out. It's not nice and flat like you'd want, which probably makes for some awkward, uncomfortable landings when pilots are getting a little confused by the doors coming in at a weird angle as they're coming in towards the ship. But there you go. And for folks who were concerned about the width of the hangar bay not feeling big enough, so you can see here a bunch of ships can now sit side by side, at least towards the back end of the hangar, and it will just taper down till we get to that width at the front. So it'll get wider by one stud further and further and further as we go back, until eventually we're here. And then all of those hangar bay doors will continue all the way back here into the sides of this, and then we'll have our bridge section back here where clones oversee all of that. In here is actually supposed to be a set of doors that can close here and here. And then underneath of here is a crane that holds whatever ship comes into dock underneath in place. There's no crane right now. Obviously, I haven't built that yet. I'm just figuring out techniques for how I may even approach something like that. But we run into our first problem. The Clone Wars show lied to us, and here's why. So this is my faithful Consular class cruiser at the correct scale for how it's supposed to be represented in universe. And the Charger C-70 is the name of the militarized version of this ship, which we see all throughout the Clone Wars. So it's basically the same, but gray, and it's longer. That's the only thing. It's longer by about, I think it's like 7 or 8 studs more than this, right? This is the size of the hangar bay as it is supposed to be, and we're supposed to be able to fit the larger version of this ship into this hangar bay in universe. We see it in the Clone Wars, we see it from underneath coming up into the ship and docking, right? So they cheated. They just did a little sneaky cheat where it shouldn't actually fit, but either the Venator was scaled up slightly or the more likely the Charger C-70 was just scaled down a little bit for those shots in the show. So yeah, I'm kind of faced with a choice. Do I make a smaller scale C-70 retrofit that will actually go in this hangar space, or do I artificially widen this hangar? Not for this part right here, because this hole is already big enough, but for underneath. So I'm thinking that there would basically be a more narrow opening here in the floor, and then on the inside of here, underneath where the ship, it's actually cut out from the underside of the ship. There's a larger opening that can accommodate the C-70 under there. That's honestly probably what I'll do. So in reality, the hangar will come from probably, it'll be like 1 stud wider here, because this is the break point right here, and I don't want to go beyond that. And then it'll come back to about here, or maybe more, something like that underneath, which is not really accurate. However, it doesn't super matter, because under here, on the underside of the ship, on this part, there's just this big trench that just has a bunch of pipes and things underneath it. And if I cut into that a little bit by having the extended hangar bay come out this way, it doesn't really affect anything as far as the look of the ship. All you'll have is a slightly shorter trench, and that trench runs all the way back here. So, that'll just be slightly shorter. The hangar bay will be slightly longer. And if you look at the ship from a distance from below, must not tip this over, you may notice that it feels a little bit large, but that's the size that it should be in universe. So I think that's what I'm going to do, because I would really love to be able to display a Charger C-70 coming in for the landing underneath here, like we've seen in the Clone Wars show many times. It's a very iconic look, and so that's what I'll probably do. So what's next for the frame here? Well, you may notice this big empty space right here. That's because this whole section is where the superstructure will sit, that kind of houses, comes up here, and then the bridges sit on top of that. So all of this stuff here is going to have to get filled in with a ton of structural frame, and I just haven't measured all of that out yet. I was mainly concerned with getting the outer edges fleshed out. So the inside part of this frame and how that's all going to be is going to be mounted on top of this, and then kind of bolted in underneath with Technic, and then we're going to be figuring out where we need the final supports to be in order for all of that to not collapse under its own weight, because the Venator is very back heavy. Like the center of gravity of this thing, even though it's so long, the center of gravity is probably like back here, because we have the engines, they're super fat and chunky and stick out, and we have all this superstructure right above here that's really, really big, and then the front here is relatively narrow and thin. So I think the center of gravity is probably, well, maybe not that far back, maybe it's like back here somewhere, So, yeah, there's going to be more legs required. So currently I only have 2, and I did this intentionally, one there and one there, that are supporting this whole back section, and nothing underneath where the hollow space is, because obviously I want to be able to have the hollow space be intact and not have legs interfering with it. And what that unfortunately does mean is that when I take this section off at the front, this whole front section wants to droop down because there's no support right under here. Once it's plugged in to the rest of the Venator, it's perfectly fine. And, we'll see later on where I need to add legs. If I do, I might have to do one on either side of the hangar bay at the front here maybe, or I may end up having to do 2 additional legs here and here to kind of support all of this, this is all coming out super far, and it's mainly going to be hollow just with skin coming over it. But then we have those engines. So I'm thinking somewhere out here, I'm going to have some additional legs. And of course that means it won't fit on my table. It already doesn't fit. But the way that I'm getting around that is by eventually elevating this up higher and cutting out a section of this back, clean display that I've got here. It's just foam core that I've put up to have a backdrop for my microfleet. I have a clean shooting area. But what I'm going to do is just hack a hole in that when I have the final size down for this. And then all of these legs are going to get extended up to elevate it. And then that back wing will just poke through and hang over what is actually my living room down there. So that's going to be interesting and cool. But I actually was, when I was working on this before I finished the full entirety of the back frame, I actually had this Venator right up against, like the legs were touching the edges of the table here, just so that I had enough space to put it all on here. And it was like very stable because, I'm working on both sides concurrently. So it's not really super wanting to tip in one direction or the other. And once I put some stuff on it, like I've got here, it's actually quite stable. So I feel very happy that this is not going anywhere unless I have a big earthquake or something, which, oh my God, please no, there's enough going on right now. Don't need that as well. So yeah, I'm pretty okay with this sitting here, to be honest. But maybe not long term. I don't want to start to stress out the overall structure, and especially with this little overhang right here, that's not comfortable. But yeah, the other thing I could potentially do is get another table, even a short table in here, just to support the back end of the ship. And that's something I may end up doing. I may even customize it to where I like cut a diagonal table and put it in here, and just have have that where the legs or the support structure of this can sit under there and be supported by something additional. So lots of options being thought about right now. So yeah, figuring this out as I go. But the important thing is the entirety of the frame exists and can be shown to you in one fell swoop, and I couldn't be more excited about it. So yay. All right, folks, so there it is in its entirety, the Venator coming together. Of course, everything is a mess right now, so apologies for all of that, but it is still incredibly satisfying to see, so I'm very happy. So I'm going to be doing my patron shout out for the video now, because you guys are helping me with your patronage to buy the parts that I need to build this crazy Venator. I'm almost out of a whole bunch of stuff, and I've been placing orders like crazy, and so you guys are literally helping to make this happen with your patronage. So today's patron shout out for the video is going to go to Alexander Britton. And Alexander, this is your third shout out, so you're getting your Star Wars character today. So Alexander, I'm giving you the character of Xander Brotine. Xander is actually an Anzellan, which are the tiny little fellows who are really good with mechanical stuff. And he works for the Rebel Alliance, actually, as a bomb disposal expert. His teeny tiny size and mechanical knowledge make him an excellent candidate for this. So he will go into a hostile area and he will defuse bombs, mines, and all manner of other obstacles so that the rebel troopers can get in there safely and do what they need to do. So a super important part of the Alliance, and a very cute one too. So there you go. I hope that you enjoy your character. Proudly, Xander will sit alongside the rest of the patron shout out characters so far. If you want your own Star Wars character assigned to you and some fan art made of that character, you can go on over to patreon.com/2bricks and see if you like any of the tiers where that is applicable. I actually do have some new perks coming up soon that I'm excited to talk about, but I'm not ready to unveil those just yet. But do go ahead and sign up if you want to support the project. But of course, if you cannot afford that and you want to just support me in a free way, you can go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe. Those things help a tremendous amount for YouTube to actually recommend my videos to more folks to see. It's actually kind of insane how much it helps and how much YouTube will just ignore your output if folks don't engage with it in any way. So thank you so much for everybody who does that every video. I really, really appreciate all of you. I see your comments. I do try to respond to most of them if I can, but I could literally be responding to comments all day and getting nothing done if I did that. So I do try to be responsive to as many folks as I can, though. So thank you so much for supporting me. Thank you so much for watching this video. And if you've seen the whole series up until this point, thank you again extra for going on this journey with me. This is a crazy, crazy project and one I've wanted to do for many, many years. And getting to realize all of this with you like this is just incredible. So thank you so much for being here. I'll see you on the next video, and may the force be with you.